G'day, welcome to Oly35mm, user-based, quasi-empirical, cheap and cheerful videos on Olympus Zuiko branded 35mm legacy film lenses on digital sensors, namely the Micro Four Thirds, Olympus OMD E-M5 MkII, the APS-C Sony NEX-F3 and the full frame sensor, the Sony A7, and you'll see some examples of that at the end of this video. Today I would like to share with you the third in this series and possibly the third lens you would have bought after the 50mm f1.8, which was the first review, and the 28mm f3.5. If you're looking for a telephoto, you may have bought this budget 135mm short telephoto lens, and one of the bonuses is you could then go out and buy yourself a genuine Olympus 2XA teleconverter, which would have made it an f7 medium telephoto lens as well. So 135mm f3.5, there were two iterations of this. This is the old one, the Zuiko Auto T, and then there was a more modern just Auto T. The Zuiko was left out of the name. And there were also two actual models. There was this fella here, and then there was also the f2.8 model, which was more expensive and still is by today's standards in the second-hand market. And this is the cheaper of the two, as I've already stated, but it's also the smaller and the lighter of the two. 73 grams versus I think about 80 of the f2.8. About 80% of the weight at 290 grams versus 360 grams, and just a bee's whisker narrower at 60mm rather than 61mm. But the bonus of this fellow is it had the 49mm filter mount, which you would have already had filters for with the 50 and 28mm lenses if you had actually bought them at the time. Okay, so a little bit about the construction of this. It is 5 elements in 4 groups versus 5 elements in 5 groups of the f2.8. It has an aperture range of f3.5 with a 1 1/3 stop to the next aperture, which is 5.6, and then single stop clicks all up to f22. It has markings for focusing in both feet and meters, feet being the orange markings and meters being the white markings, and it ranges from a minimum focusing distance of 1.5 meters or 5 feet through to infinity, and that extends the length of the lens by roughly about 1.5 centimeters, or possibly about 2/3 of an inch or so, somewhere thereabouts. It also has depth of field indication marks from f22, f11, f5.6 as well. It has standard Olympus hardware. It has the lens lock button, or in this case, if you press it in, the unlock button. And it also has the depth of field preview button as well on the base. And you'll notice that inside there is an 8-bladed iris diaphragm, which gives quite nice bokeh. Okay, so, and one more thing is it has a built-in lens hood, something that our friends at Olympus don't do all that often with even the modern lenses. But this was one of, I think it's about 4 lenses that I know of that had built-in lens hoods. Both the 135s and also the 200mm had them in as well. This one's a bit loose, unfortunately, so it's a little bit sticky, but very, very handy. Okay, so I've run some tests through this. I've actually run quite a few films through it on my old film cameras, but I've run some tests on the 3 sensors that I mentioned earlier, and I've been very happy with this little lens. In fact, I actually have an f2.8 lens as well, and I actually like this one more. I must admit. Now that may be because my f2.8 isn't in as good quality, in as good condition as this particular lens, and this one's only in good condition. You can see a few marks on the front there. But as far as I'm concerned, this will be the one I will be keeping when I peel down my collection, rather than the f2.8, even though it's 2/3 of a stop slower than the f2.8. So quite happy with this. The best f-stops I found, or the best apertures that I found, are f5.6 through to f11, with f8 being the best of the lot. And that's across all three sensors. Sometimes it changes a little bit, I've noticed, when I'm testing these lenses, but really it's consistent for this particular lens across all three. So generally that f8 is the best of the lot, and f5.6 to f11 is a good range, corners and also in the center. There is a reasonable amount of chromatic aberration with this, and it probably is because it's the old lens, which it doesn't have the same coatings on it that the more modern ones do, and that could be part of the problem. But I found at wider apertures there tends to be some purple fringing, especially towards the corners. However, you can get away with taking that out in software, because remember, we're putting this onto digital sensors. So all in all, you should be looking at maybe $100 for one in very good to excellent condition. You may pay a little bit more for one with a case, or one in mint condition, but I wouldn't be paying any more than that. I picked this one up for about $60, and it was probably as much as I should have paid for it. The f2.8s are generally between 50% and 100% more, even by today's standards. So it's up to you whether you want to get an f2.8. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm quite happy with mine. It's just that I like this one more. It seems to be quite good for both stills and videography. It is a little less contrasty than some of the other lenses, but you can do something in post-processing with that if you would like to. Anyway, that's about it for this particular lens. It's a lot. Oh, sorry, the only other thing I was going to say is it ran from about 1973 to about 1994, so it had about a 21-year run. I believe the f2.8 went all the way to the end of the run in 2002 or somewhere thereabouts, but this little fella died out in the 90s. So they're fairly easy to get hold of. You should be able to pick up one if you want one without too many problems at all. So you're a little bit spoiled for choice, I suppose. So that's your lot for today. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.